Hello everybody, System Chalk here with the 18th episode of our library run, playing as the detective Ivan Vucetich. I'm hopefully better rested, I'm feeling better rested than where I left you, and I hope the day in between these episodes has been kind to you, but I am going to need a minute here just to review where I was at. So we've got... Right, we were doing the painting. I think this was in hopes that I might get a second contentment. White door makes sense. We're trying to still get some secret histories. We can't get past the stag door until we find the opening. I think that might be the Grail one, but we'll find it when we look at the text. This is I actually find in some ways Cultist Simulator can be a little bit like I don't know, programming or some other things. Sometimes it's better to know where you can pick things up, like where you can find certain knowledge, than it is to keep it all inside of your head all at once. Now, it's a little more difficult in Cultist Simulator because you don't always have little bits of lore fragments running around. In fact, I tend to notice, I think people tend to move them to the highest level that they can, whereas I've always been attached to the idea of being able to read each fragment in order. So my playstyle tends to reflect that. But yeah, I don't know. I tend to feel like just being able to know when that information becomes relevant, to be able to know where I can look it up in this case is a little bit better than trying to memorize everything. So, for instance, I know with the romances, there has to be a certain combination of sort of desire, location, and individual. I have no idea if it's possible to do romances as a detective, but it seems like it would be interesting to try. And again, if the talk verb is idle, I can give it a shot, but I don't want to, go too far down the rabbit hole of romance options. Okay, let's see. Let's see what our other two steps are going to be. I don't have any real need for the study verb right now, and talk, that's roughly around the time I would maybe try some of the romance options, but I don't have much to do with that right now. So let's just unpause and keep things going. I am going to be going back to the Forsaken Reach a few times. I've created something both distinctive and beautiful. It will very likely enhance my reputation. And that was another contentment that we got. So probably also have some mystique, which I'd prefer not to have, but a lot of contentment. And we don't have any staleness, which is nice. Okay, let's try to avoid getting fired. Investigating a target, the more reason I use, the better my chances of success. So no season of ambitions coming up. At this point, we want to get the Forsaken Reach and move on. Despair baits. Despair is the wolf that devours thought. Okay. Oh, sorry. I was mistaken. So I did actually get a fascination for that. So paintings whisper, windows wink. I know these things are not true, but how can I be certain? So the fleeting reminiscence will go into the fascination. I do actually have a couple of options under the old system. Under the old system, it would only be fascination, and dread would be the way that you could get rid of fascination. This was probably the last big challenge that I had to overcome in terms of Cultist Simulator, was to work out a way of managing fascination. Fascination was the thing that could always be the run-ender for me. And roughly around the time that I felt I had a good system in place for it, they added the fleeting reminiscence condition, which made it considerably easier. But that's fine. I know I made the effort. Seek out secret places in the city. There are places in the city where I can find extraordinary things if I could sift the clues out of history and rumor. Alright. Oh, this will be good. So, subtle fracture. Clouds part, walls creak, old wounds ache. Last night, in the great pavilion above the grey sprawl of the Bounds, a woman who once called herself Teresa Gallmer sat on gilt-fringed cushions and offered me a horn cup of dream wine. The wine is imaginary, she explained, but the cup is not. To navigate the Mansis, one must understand the distinction. Perhaps one day you'll join me on the pilgrimage, or I'll join you. So here, let us share a secret. And her breath tickled my ear. Now, as much as I would love to advance, let's say Neville, up to a disciple, I think I'm going to make the effort on the Lantern crew, because I think in terms of a lantern, that will get me past treacherous ground, hidden doors, but not locked doors. Actually, that is maybe the one concern here, because I don't have the investment in the forge. No, I still think it makes sense. I'm reluctant to move up the knock people just because I kind of already have... I have a good foundation to work with. Actually, sorry, there is one last one which might change my mind on this. So it's 6 with the subtle fracture. If we add Enid, and then it was 20 for... Yeah, there's no way we're getting up to 21 with that. But yeah, I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put the effort into Lantern this time around. And the reason why I'm sort of shorting the knock followers is that it doesn't take as much to get them to the higher level. So in this case, Pope Clifton. Now Clifton improvises new prayers rich with solar metaphors. He still shouts like a soldier and drinks like a sailor. So my follower will kneel as a novice and rise as an initiate. I will administer the necessary oaths myself. And I don't really see much point in doing anything but the stag door at this point. There is a small danger given the fascination, so I could have, for instance, walked away with a fascination from the white door. But again, I know we've got a fleeting reminiscence coming up, so I'm sort of just banking on that ahead of time. My investigation has turned up no new leads, so nothing really for me to worry about here. I think you know, painting's always an option, but I'm gonna keep with the job. I'm actually intrigued by the fact that my two main jobs, either painting or working as a detective, produce either dread or fascination. I could imagine if I was still trying to struggle, like if I was still struggling with despair or with fascination and dread, I could see how I might want to play those two different abilities. I might want to play those two priorities off of each other to help me get through to the end. All right, let's go to the Forsaken Reach. We've got Mystique, which is not great, but I can, you know, I'll live with the consequences here. Although it is worth remembering that Wakefield is meticulous. So, okay, let's Oh, actually, if I give it 2 seconds, we can bring full strength Clifton. Okay, there's going to be consequences for that. Last night, in the billowing blue of the lodge of the Sage Knight, I sat on velvet cushions and watched 2 dead contend with shining swords. They came with the place, said the woman who rules here now, the one who once called herself Galmer. I was not the Sage Knight, if that's what you're wondering. He went higher in the Mansis before I came here. My attention has drifted. The swords sparkle like falling water. The dead move like dancers. So I think we are going to get this... I think this is going to get picked up, but we'll have the fleeting reminiscence left over. So I'll live with it. To she who is flesh, I offer my wounds. To she who is stone, I offer this moment, where my old self divides from my new. To she who came from light, I offer my secrets. The door is opened. Alright, so we've got 2 lantern disciples to get us past at least the treacherous ground. Oop, not Slee. And back to the white door. Again, something of a risk given that I already have fascination on the table, but I try not to... It was actually kind of interesting. On Reddit, someone commented about... I'll be honest, actually, I didn't care for the phrasing of the statement, but I think I know what they were getting at. And it's basically, I think the phrasing was, is Cultist Simulator 2 formulaic? I'm like, no, this is not a problem with Cultist Simulator. But essentially it was a complaint about the grind, and I know people, I think the one consistent complaint about the game would be that it's a bit grindy. I'm not entirely sure it's an off-base comment, although I think it overstates the problem. But on the other hand, I really like this game, right? So of course I'm not gonna like it. I think basically what it was is that they're at the end game. Maybe they've completed the game, but they're sort of like, you know, it's much more interesting when I don't know how everything works. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a narrative game, right? I know for some narrative games, there's a lot that... By the way, I am actually kind of intrigued by the fact that the tricuspid gate was highlighted. Huh. But yeah, I think this is true for most narrative games. And the thing is, I guess it's a little bit like how you read books. So I did not find it a hardship to read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy again. Actually, if anything, you know, multiple readings enhance the experience, because what I originally thought were things that were just, you know, funny for the sake of being funny, or sort of, not exactly non sequiturs, but, you know, they just kind of seem to be throwaway bits, were actually very carefully thought out, and kind of these things that had been established earlier finally kind of coming back for their payoff. And I mean, again, if you've learned anything over this many Cultist Simulator videos, you know that I'm not very clever. But yeah, being able to get delighted by that stuff is enjoyable to me. But on the other hand, there's obviously enough people who complain whenever there's a conversation going on. No spoilers, no spoilers, even if the thing's like 45 years old and they had absolutely no plan on watching it up until, you know, you wanting to have a reasonable conversation with friends. It can give you a bit of an idea in terms of what I think of spoilers. You know, some people apparently get the most out of the novelty. Which is funny because I do have a little bit of... it's not exactly evidence because I haven't seen the survey, but there's a very strong suggestion that a large proportion of people buying books will actually read the last few pages to see if it's worthwhile. And it makes sense, right? You want to make sure this thing you're going to be investing a bunch of time in is worth it. And I don't know, the whole idea of spoilers seems to be a very modern phenomena, and it's one I actually don't care very much for. But it's fair to say that people have this sort of expectation now that things are going to be new, and it's not worth it if it's not new. And so, with that in mind, I think probably there is an argument to be said that you probably won't like Cultist Simulator that much if you, you know, if you're looking for constant novelty, as I think is true of any narrative game. Even Telltale, which I think has a little bit of an overstated reputation for, you know, for choices matter. In the end, you are going to wind up with a certain set. I mean, sometimes the choices you make are just about who shows up at the end of the the cuts, like the final cutscenes in that. Anyways, there was a reason why I was bringing this up. There was something about the formula. So I mean, the easy answer for a player like that is, you know, play Exile, because the safety and the stability of the, you know, of the aspirant and similar legacy. I mean, some of the other legacies, I think it would be fair to say that there is a nudge towards a different style of play, but Exile absolutely pushes you away from that safety, and I think it was designed with that, you know, with that priority in mind. There was something I was gonna say about it, though. I don't know. It'll come to me. I'm sorry, but I really should get the playthrough going. But yeah, I guess the one thing for me is that like I've enjoyed sort of working through the. I'm sorry. Number one, I do tend to go on digressions, but number two, there's a few things kind of going on around me, and my attention does get diverted. So I try and keep talking while I go on, but inevitably, if there's something sufficiently distracting, I can keep the conversation going, but my mind goes off to a different place, and it does break the thought. The drawback, I think some of you who've had the experience of seeing this for a while, and I'll get back to the game after this, but there'll be like these nested conversations, or nested parentheses almost. And if I focus on it, I will always be able to get them out, but it's terrible for streaming because there's just too much going on. But anyways, you're here for Cultist Simulator. We'll pick it up later. I don't mean to put I don't mean to put that particular post on blast. I didn't like the framing of it as it's Cultist Simulator's problem. I think Cultist Simulator is what it is, and I think any narrative game that you play, if ultimately you're looking for novelty, there is going to be a finite lifespan for that game, and that's fine, because not every game has to be Civilization, where you'll play it, over and over and over and over again. But, it's also equally important to know what you're getting into, and I think if you want that novelty, I mean, to a certain extent, I suppose it's just a question in terms of whether or not you'll enjoy narrative games, right? I don't like all types of games, and so, if for me having a new experience every single time I play I mean, to a certain extent I have that because I like playing different characters and different, have different personalities for them. But yeah, I probably wouldn't play as many narrative games as I do just because, the story is the story. I actually tend to prefer it when I'm in the hands of a good storyteller, rather than this attempt at sort of... some games are very good, like Starflight's very good at sort of creating lots and lots of things to do. But even then, the narrative for Starflight's always going to stay the same. So... Anyways, last night I dreamt of a blue silk pavilion overlooking the cloudy labyrinth of the Bounds. I listened to the mistress of this place speak of other visitors. The Suppression Bureau come here. Did you know that? I think they hope to recruit me as an ally, she snorts derisively. After what they tried to do to Christopher, but their folly is your fortune. I will tell you something that will help you if the Bureau ever troubles you. Ah! Alright, so let's also... I'm not going to add port... Oh, did I already add... Yeah, okay, we did. We call upon the watchman who navigates. The watchman will clear our sight so that we can almost certainly pass without error. Do I want to risk port? No, I think we'll add a funds on this one, and then we'll add porter on the next step. Bleak thoughts, we've got a free turn coming up. Safe across the treacherous ground. We're mud spattered and thorn scratched, but we've made it through. I probably should be sending Leo out to clear up our reputation. If nothing else, it helps me get the vitality. I, of course, have other options. If I needed to procure a corpse, or if I needed a, sacrifice or a hostage. I also have that option, but that's generating a lot of notoriety at a time where I don't really feel that I need it. Last night, in the billowing blue of the Lodge of the Sage Knight, I sat on velvet cushions and watched two dead contend with shining swords. They came with the place, said the woman who rules here now, the one who once called herself Gallagher. I was not the Sage Knight, if that's what you're wondering. He went higher in the Mansis long before I came here. My attention has drifted. The swords sparkle like falling water. The dead move like dancers. Okay, so... Now that's interesting. If you use Q and E, you can move up. So again, every time we put Porter in, we're risking a moth death. But the point of having these people is to, to be able to get something out of them. So, Season of Ambition. So I want to be a little bit careful with Rhaenyra and locations. And against the Watchers, a powerful deception. Look closer, closer still, closer. Keep looking, closer. Now close your eyes. This didn't really accomplish much. If anything, it might extend the life of the Mystique, but probably not a bad habit to work into. It's also worth mentioning, it's not that big of a problem if Rhaenyra winds up taking the Forsaken Reach. The biggest drawback at this point, actually, is advancing Rhaenyra, because then I'll probably have to consider arresting her. But it's more the unique locations that I'm worried about. Okay, in last night's stream, I was in the Lodge of the Sage Knight behind the White Door. It's difficult to remember exactly how I came there, and the mistress of this place, the woman with the dark glasses, was nodding as if I had asked her a difficult question. Of course, I hadn't. I lost my speech when I passed the White Door. How is it that I can speak, she said to me. I didn't come here through the White Door. I'm not proud of what I did to come here, so let me tell you about something else. Let's go back to... I feel like I can afford to speed things up a little bit now. The one drawback here about this Librarian approach is it does take me a while to get through things. The Watcher's confusion, their bewilderment is our opportunity, will pass in silent secrecy. Okay, so it is a bold scheme. We're going to need to keep the Forsaken Reach out of reach. Come on. Our expedition plans for the next treasures lie before us. Okay, so we have a minute before we can go to the Forsaken Reach again. I recall my dream. This was the Lodge of Blue Silk, flapping in the winds of the bounds of the Mansis edge, and here was its mistress, who welcomed me as she welcomes all travelers. Company is nice, she confided. Excuse me, but I still miss my Christopher. 10 years. 10 years and not enough. But we could not have been long together, not without touching each other. And you know what occurs when a man long lies with a long woman. Or perhaps you don't. I hope you don't. I won't tell you just in case. I'll give you a tiny gift. Alright. Again, our main benefit is pursuing the White Door until, essentially, mostly for, essentially we're going for Forgotten Chronicles here. But if I have another, if I have something else that I can pick up, so much the better. Delayed delivery, a barred door, a cramped space, a hidden cargo. And the fascination will be gone by the time we need to worry about it. With luck, we'll have our notoriety. It should be coming in a second. Yes. Okay. The Watchers here were guarding crates sealed with thief-signed ribbons. This was not a lawful operation. The owners of the cargo may not be pleased with our meddling. Alright, so we've got a new item here, the Byzantine Tinct. The profound purple worn only in histories where Tyrian dye was not rich enough for emperors. It is difficult to bar entry to one wearing this color. Meravine Idol. Not too exciting, to be honest, but... And no one understands us, or else they understand us too well. Okay, so... try and make it work again with Leo. One of the most important things I can be getting right now is information about whether or not some of the stuff I want to do is actually possible. So for instance, the idea that you notice that I was able to find... Well, I wasn't... Ah, darn it, sorry. I really wanted to pick that up. You'll notice that I was able to get the English translation of De Bellis Murorum, but that was actually from a named location. We also got Kerner and Goethe, which, you know, it's not something that I necessarily need, but it's an example of books that were at Oriflammes that could be appearing in the Forsaken Reach. And I have a feeling... I'm starting to sort of reveal my hand here a little bit, but I have a feeling that I'm going to be able to get some duplicates from works that I want/need by visiting the Forsaken Reach enough times. But it does seem to be a random draw, so there is something of an open question in terms of whether or not this this works the way that I think. If it doesn't, I still have another... I do still have another approach that I can consider. But of course, this is the risk of adding the wounded follower, right? If I'm not careful, I'm going to lose them. This is why trips to the White Door are also helpful, because if I get the the knock influence, then I can move people up. So clouds part, walls creak, old wounds ache, a sixth order influence, significant resonances or correspondences. This can be used in some rites to summon minions. I think in this case here, I'm actually going to move Yzabet up just to bench Porter. Now I can approach the White Door through the bounds. Now I can press my fingers to it, feel its chill, watch it swing open. As it opens, my mouth closes, tightens, heals over like a lost deformity. Around and about me is the cobalt light of the Mansis. Optimism is the spice which saves. Alright, let's move a follower up. Yzabet sleeps in fits and starts. She rises at dusk to do the things Yzabet does. So I think we should be able to get by without too much trouble from the Suppression Bureau. The Watchman will clear our sight so that we can almost certainly pass without error. So again, we always risk fascination, but it's worth it. Just because we're getting close to the end of the time together, I'm going to be a little more stingy with the readings. Safe across treacherous ground, we're mud spattered and thorn scratched, but we made it through. Okay, second season of Suspicion is a bit of a worry because that may coincide with the end of the investigation. To she who is flesh, I offer my wounds. To she who is stone, I offer this moment, where my old self divides from my new. To she who came from light, I offer my secrets. The door is opened. Yzabet was just here, just a moment ago. Just here, almost certainly. Okay, so I've got my Porter replacement. I think it's a little early for this, but arrange a meeting on neutral ground. Are we enemies? Perhaps we don't have to be. So if I talk about the Igavian Rite, seems we do have something to discuss. I know I've converted a rival before, but I don't remember. We'll try the Forgotten Chronicle just because it's the most powerful that I have, but I don't think this is going to have the effect that I want. I seem to remember I needed a very high value, and I can't remember if there was a specific type of lore that I needed for that. Like I said, that was, to me, that's some of the fun of being able... That's some of the fun of being able to play this over without perfect recall. Alright, in last night's stream, I was in the Lodge of the Sage Knight behind the White Door. It is difficult to remember exactly how I came there, and the mistress of this place, the woman with the dark glasses, was nodding as if I had asked her a difficult question. Of course I hadn't. I lost my speech when I passed the White Door. How is it that I can speak, she said to me. I didn't come here through the White Door. I'm not proud of what I did to come here, so let me tell you about something else. So, it's possible I may... Yeah, 30 seconds. If a mystique comes up as a result of this meeting... Right. A hushed and elliptical conversation by lamplight with giants of truth like gold and river mud. Who knows? Perhaps one day we might speak less guardedly. So, I did wind up with fascination for the trouble. It's a good way for me to escape. Seems like a good way to escape the effects of the investigation. Or, like the dread that comes from investigating, I mean. Their bewilderment is our opportunity will pass in silent secrecy. Now, I know the videos have been going a little bit longer lately, and it's actually something I need to, just for my own benefit, I do actually need to rein that in a bit. But I do want to see what the result of the Forsaken Reach is. Okay, that's a bit of a problem. Last night, in the billowing blue of the Lodge of the Sage Knight, I sat on 2 velvet cushions and watched 2 dead contend with shining swords. They came with the place, said the woman who rules here now, the one who once called herself Gallagher. It was not the Sage Knight, if that's what you're wondering. He went higher in the mansis long before I came here. My attention has drifted. The swords sparkle like falling water. The dead move like dancers. So this is the newer of the 2 fascination. We're gonna use, just because this could be a game ender, what I'm going to do here is, especially given that we're having a chat with Rhaenyra, I'm going to take the Fleeting Reminiscence and combine these first. So I'm also going to need to employ some reason to save myself from the temptation. Oh, I meant to read that. And we did get some erudition out of that, but... so now's the time to take Leo and get him to clear out the... trouble. Sent to the pages. I cannot forget what I saw in the file on Ivan Vucetic. It is difficult to resist rereading the file. A barred door, a cramped space, a hidden cargo. I am discipline. I am all discipline. I haven't lasted this long to give up so easily. Okay, I don't need to worry about this erudition too much. It could still cause a problem, but not enough for me to put things on hold. And here we go. A delayed delivery. The Watchers were guarding crates sealed with thief-signed ribbons. This was not a lawful operation. The owners of the cargo may not be pleased with our meddling. So, more refulgin. Vital pigment. Rose pearl dust. I was hoping for something different. Alright, I think we're going to need to take another crack at it. Yeah, indecisive. But we'll leave that for another time. Thank you very much for watching. I will be back tomorrow, hopefully with a little bit more progress. The tough part here is that I'm trying to find out if something works the way that I want it to, and so it's hard to see. It's kind of hard to know when to throw in the towel, but I will do my best, and we will explore this together in a future episode. Thank you for watching. Take care.